Good evening and welcome to Sports Scene. I'm Dion Kombang and I will be your host for tonight. In tonight's show, we have a few sports lined up for you. We'll kickstart the show with some sailing action. Now, Jeremy and I were fortunate enough to catch the Sailors up close in action. Although it was all fun and games for Jeremy and myself, the Sailors were in a heated competition, vying for a spot to be named in the training squad for the Pacific Games. Now, here's what we got up to.
Well, I'm here with Dion Kombang and we're just off the coast of Port Moresby, roughly about 2 kilometers out, and we're here to take a look at the Royal PNG Yacht Club's pre-season regatta. I'm used to it. I'm used to being out here on the sea. Dion, on the other hand, how have you found the entire experience?
Man, this experience has been awesome. I'm the biggest fan of hobby cats.
Well, there are actually two different types of boats that are out here. You have the smaller ones, single hulls, which are called the lasers. And of course, as Dion mentioned, you've got the double hull sailboats, which are called hobby cats. Let's take a look at some of the action. Thank you very much for your time. Sailing instructor, what does your particular job entail?
Well, my particular job entail here is to teach small kids how to sail as they grow, and then like when they get more adult, more bigger, then they choose which particular craft they want to hop on, because we got a handful of different crafts of sailing. We got the lasers, we got the hobbies, we got even the A class.
Graham, thank you very much for your time. Now, today's event, and you also have a number of the members of your family taking part in these events. What do you feel is one of the biggest challenges facing the team right now?
Basically equipment, training equipment. That's our biggest challenge is training equipment. We were told, or in our federation meeting several months back late last year, that we were getting equipment from the G4G equipment grant. Unfortunately, we have not received anything from the G4G equipment. There has been equipment bought for the hobby class, but for the laser, there was nothing bought. And we were donated 2 boats by the Pacific Games Organizing Committee.
How do you feel about the current crop of talent that you see?
They're quite good. The squad's quite good. We got 3 boats at the moment training, and 2 boats are pretty good. And then there's one, it's okay, but it's not consistent. I'll just have to mix the team around and try and pick the best. That's all I can do. Yeah.
And the best will depend on a number of factors.
That's right. Yeah. That will be the crew, the crew and the skippers. They gotta be, good, and the sailing. Who we gonna go against, because we're looking at Tahitians and Nubians and Fijians. They are the ones that we need to look at.
Do you feel there's an advantage if you come from an area where sailing is a part of your heritage?
Yeah, it is. It is very important. It is very important. And the hobby cats, the guys, they still new at the moment. What I would do if if it works out okay, we should start training the boys now to the next games instead of starting 1 year before the games. Because the Numians and New Caledonians, they come to Australia every year to train, and our boys don't get down there. Yeah, and that's because of money, maybe.
Now to Touch Rugby, Elijah Levette joins us with an update on the team's preparation for the Rugby Touch World Cup in Sydney. Elijah managed to catch up with the team in training on the weekend.
PNG Touch Rugby is in its second training camp for the year. The 3-day training camp aims to select the men's, women's and mixed teams for the World Cup in Sydney in April and the Pacific Games. Each team will have a total of 17 members. Women's coach Sue Salter said their biggest threats would be Australia and New Zealand during the World Cup, but was confident that PNG would perform well at the World Cup and could be gold medal contenders in the Pacific Games.
With both the boys and girls teams, we had a training camp in January this year where we had an initial look at a lot of the Port Moresby players. So unfortunately some of the outer island players couldn't get in for that camp, looking at some of their skills and gameplay. This camp here, though, we're really excited because we've managed to get all the players from the various, not just from Port Moresby, but from the outlying areas have come in as well to trial for the area here. We actually have 20 girls here and 28 boys trying out for the final Pacific Games teams. And we've just been doing a whole pile of both fitness work, skill work, gameplay work to see where they're at and how they're going to be working. With the view to leading into the Pacific Games, our next major tournament, we're actually going to take both the boys and girls teams to the World Cup, the actual Touch World Cup, which is run by the Federation of International Touch in Australia at the end of April, where they'll get to play against the very top touch countries from European countries, Australia, New Zealand, America, South Africa. We'll all be at that World Cup to give them some really good game preparation before we come back here again. We have another training camp, we hope, in May to hone their skills a little bit further before we finally come back at the end of June for the Pacific Games, where we have very high hopes for these teams on the medals here in their home country to do you guys proud. The fields we have here are a good size, so we can get the men's and women's teams with plenty of room. In between the training, when I'm obviously from Australia and I can only come over every now and again, in between we have the High Performance Centre, and our players have been regularly going to the High Performance Centre to do their strength training. Plus we have the local coaches here, we have coaches and managers from the Port Moresby area who have been doing 2 or 3 times a week fitness sessions, skill-related fitness sessions, either on the fields or down at the beach, to make sure the athletes are at their top peak level by the time we actually get to do the Pacific Games in June. For the World Cup, to be honest, Australia are the top nation in touch. They have been for a long, long time. That it's not a realistic, to beat Australia or New Zealand would be absolutely incredible. But to be perfectly honest, they're probably not the ones. But we've still got a good chance to be in the top 4 or 5 countries. That Australia, New Zealand are the top countries by a long, long way. But the next level down, we think our guys are in the mix there for semi-final spots, which is like the next tier down from those top 2 countries. So yeah, other South Pacific nations, there's a few of those going. Fiji, Samoa, a few of those countries are going, but even South Africa and your European countries, we're at least on a par with those countries for the World Cup. So we've got high hopes to get in the top half of the table. But to be realistic, yeah, those top countries just play a little bit better than we do. The improvement in both the girls and the boys over the last 12 months has been amazing. They're very keen, very enthusiastic, listening, learning, getting better camp by camp. So for your Pacific Games, we have very high hopes that if we can keep them fit, keep them healthy, and they play to their potential, we have a very, very good shot.
The camp has players from around the country vying for a spot in the final squad. Touch rugby player Jerry Borg, who is striving for a spot, was happy to be part of the preparations and camp.
As a player, the preparation I think is going well with the whole entire team. We've been, especially the Port Moresby based players, we've been training for months now. And just recently we've been joined by other outside centers. So yeah, this is our last trial for the World Cup, which is coming up in April, and the SP Games. So right now we are 28 of us, and it's going to cut down to 17 players for men's and women's team. Yeah, so that's what we're looking for. It depends on how the players perform. If they perform better in the World Cup, they can be also in the SP Games. It just entirely depends on the performances of every player. I think new players are the young ones, younger than me. I came into the touch freely since to represent the country in 2012 in Coffs Harbour. This is the second trial I'm going through now, and I'm hoping to make that team too.
The final squad will be announced later next month.
After the break, we bring to you all the soccer action from the Telecom National Soccer League. Stay with us. The weekend saw a double header in Port Moresby with Hekari United taking on POM FC. Now Medang thrashed Oro 3-0. Now here are the highlights.
A double header in the Telecom National Soccer League
over the weekend.
The first match was between Hekari and FC Port Moresby with exciting and fiery style of football. The Reds kept the pressure on FC POM right throughout the game with continuous attack at the goalmouth. Both sides were good at defense, but despite Hekari having more ball possession, they failed to find the back end of the net. The FC POM defense was outstanding, keeping the champions at bay. The match ending in a scoreless draw.
Yeah, I think, as you said, Hekari had a lot of possession, but sometimes that's football. You have to play to your strengths. I thought we defended pretty well today. That's been lacking in the last few games. We considered to make goals in our first early games, but I think we held our shape really well. Yeah, I think the first 15 minutes we did really well. 15 minutes in the first half, but we lost our way a little bit there the last 30. And I think the last 30 minutes of the second half was much more disciplined. We kept our shape and kept our game plan.
Okay, I'm here with Charles Lupani, man of the match for the first header against Hekari United. So Charles, how did you see the game went?
It didn't go hard too much. First half we got play well. I don't know what chance was good. But game tight. Till second half we go inside now. Kissing formation go right now, tactics right now we play. So we come out, draw one time. We come draw.
You think your boys to backside now, front or cooperate? You gotta play according to game plan before or?
Midfield don't open, Thomas. But our backs don't keep it shape long now. Stop strong on backside. Okay.
The second match was between the Medang FC and Oro FC. Medang took advantage of the tiring defense as Oro had only 2 days of rest before the match. The visitors from Oro were thrashed 3-0 in a clinical 5-minute spell late in the second half.
Before we head out for a break, MTV Lay's Sylvester Gawi brings us the highlights of the NSL action in Lay.
This was a very strong and intense game between the two Lay-based teams. A younger Besta side put on a strong defense for the Lay City Dwellers, stopping their many goal attempts. The Dwellers, on the other hand, sent in a mixed composure of players, including many young and inexperienced players. The Lay side showed little improvements from their previous games, but managed to outplay the development team.
This Amaslo boys performance last week, this week, good performance. Milugos boys all start low, improve now.
Besta FC, on the other hand, didn't stick much to the game plan. A bigger Lay Dweller side distracted them easily during their attack and defense. Besta captain and the man of the match, Otto Kusunan, was happy about his team's performance. He says despite their 1-0 loss, his boys gave their best in holding off the Dwellers from a marginalized win. The Dwellers, however, will have to work so hard to find the right combinations for the midfield before the end of round 1. Coach Peter Gunamba was happy with his new boys' performance and is optimistic about winning the last 2 games.
Our intention is to win the 2 remaining games in the first round. And then when we do that, second round, it is to maintain our place in the first 4 places and to knock it off with Ekari, because Ekari is drawing 2 now.
John Kitsani scored Lay's only goal about 10 minutes into full time.
Now in this final segment of tonight's show, we catch up with PNG 7's assistant coach Douglas Guys. Now Douglas Guys is confident that the team will perform at the Borneo Sevens.
We still got a wider squad now, so today's trials was just about cutting the wider squad down to finalizing our 12 for the Borneo Sevens next weekend. Yeah.
What are you guys looking for this for the tournament against Borneo?
Obviously, well, we're looking for an improved performance, and you can't, there's no, simple, there's no magic to fix all these things. It takes a bit of hard work, and we try to keep it simple and told the boys just about accountability and fitness and bringing the right attitude to the team. Yeah, they're going pretty well. We brought a couple of guys back in as you mentioned earlier, for a bit of experience and to have a wider base to select from. And the older guys, the more experienced guys, are pushing it a bit and getting everyone out of their comfort zone. So it's pretty good competition amongst the boys. In the Borneo tournament, as I mentioned, we're looking for a much improved performance. A lot of key areas we got to improve on from Wellington, and we're going to look at bringing a couple boys into the squad as well, and so we can have a good 12 for the Hong Kong Sevens later on in the month there. Yeah, it's been about 6 to 7 years since we've gone back on the circuit, so it was an eye-opener for a lot of the boys going to Wellington. But in saying that, at international level, we still got to step up, got to make an impression of some sort. So yeah, like I said again, our expectations are keeping it simple and looking for improved performance come Hong Kong. Yeah.
Okay. That's all we have for tonight's show. I'm Dion Kombang. Thank you for joining me on Sports Scene. See you same time, same place next week. Good night.